I used to cling tightly to a chimeric vision of nature as something pure and somehow pre-human, and to the idea that anything human-made removed a place from its natural status. But I have come to understand nature differently. Surely there is a continuum from a pure, undefiled wilderness to a trammeled concrete industrial area. But there is no place we now know, as the relentlessly global impacts of climate change become increasingly understood, that humans have left untouched. And there is no place that the wild does not, in some small way, proclaim itself. Many human activities are wholly ugly, working against the nature upon which we forget we depend. Still, we do not flip-flop back and forth, now in nature, now in culture, now feeling quite animal-like, now wholly intellectual. We are at all times, both at once. In this, humans may be unique, but we are no less natural. We are the human species living in culture, bound by nature. When we allow ourselves to think of nature as something out there, we become prey to complacency. If nature is somewhere else, then what we do here doesn't really matter. Jennifer Price writes in Flight Maps, her eloquent critique of romanticized nature, that modern Americans use an idea of nature out there to ignore our ravenous uses of natural resources. She writes, "If I don't think of a Volvo as nature, then can I buy and drive it to nature without thinking very hard about how I use, alter, destroy, and consume nature?" In my urban ecosystem, I drive around a corner and a crow leaps into flight from the grassy parking strip. We startle each other. If nature is out there, she asks, then what am I? And whenever I read this part out loud, I'm really grateful for my editor because it started out as, then what am I, chopped liver? And she said, maybe we just stop with what am I? Always like, yay for her. To suggest that urban nature holds profound lessons is not to suggest that our concrete-laced wilds are, in any sense, adequate. Ecologically minded social critics are most often correct in proclaiming them to be impoverished places that incite a rampant consumerism, contriving at every moment to cut us off from any connection to a wilder earth. Urban sprawl and the degraded, chopped-up habitat it leaves in its wake is the single greatest threat to species diversity in the current millennium. If we wish to have a positive impact on the places we consider to be most profoundly wild, then we must begin by inhabiting our home ecosystems with some semblance of knowledge and grace. Put on your walking shoes, my louse-ridden crow suggested, and I did. I took my daughter's hand and set out to drop the barriers I'd erected between my heart and my urban home. I would learn my place deeply and well, give the wild things that live there their due credit, and try to grasp how we might dwell together with intelligence, artistry, and joy. I would take my binoculars and sketchbook out of the field bag I carry when I visit nature out there, and drop them into the bag I carry every day, the one with my cell phone and my laptop and my bus pass, of course, because it's Seattle, my coffee mug. I would live as much in the presence of the wild as the urban landscape allows. I would learn quickly that this would be a creative challenge, but not an impossible one. There are, after all, always crows. And so that's what I did. I started taking my binoculars everywhere, not just when I went, I'm a student of bird life like so many of you, and so I would never dream of walking through the woods or walking even along Puget Sound without having my binoculars around my neck. And I thought, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make every day a field trip. I'm going to take the binoculars every time I step out of my house, no matter whether I'm walking to get my daughter from school, go to the library, or go to Target. And I kind of thought that that wasn't really that weird of a thing to do. I mean, we live in Seattle, right? It's not Paris. Or, we wear our polar fleece out to dinner, and we wear sweat socks with our sandals, and nobody really seems to notice. So I thought it would kind of be like that. But try it sometime. If you walk around, even Seattle, wearing binoculars, people want to know what is going on. I can't tell you how many times people asked, "What are you doing?" And sometimes I'd say, I'm watching these crows, and they'd be sort of disappointed and say, oh, I thought you were studying birds. That great crow prejudice. So people ask constantly what I was doing. I was questioned by police more than once. Yes. The post, and I think I think that others might have called them, actually, one instance, at least. And my favorite thing was teenagers. Teenagers would affect that dead zombie look that only teenagers can do, and lean over to one another and say, "Nice binoculars." Just totally deadpan. But I have to say, it was one of the most worthwhile exercises of my life. When you step out of your house with this readiness to see, you are given more to see. And I don't know how it works. It's some kind of psychological or spiritual law, but I promise you, if you wear binoculars or put a notebook and pencil in your pocket ready to take notes on something that you may never have seen before, or put a hand lens around your neck, just walk out with this sort of air of expectancy. More is given to you. And it might sound a little woo-woo, but the great scientist Louis Pasteur said, "Chance favors the prepared mind."